Hello everybody, you're very welcome to this episode of Universal Design for Learning. In this episode I want to talk a little bit about the idea of multiple intelligences. Now multiple intelligences is often lumped together with learning styles, and people see them as being a similar concept, which they certainly are, but researchers and advocates of multiple intelligences see differences between them that we'll mention somewhat during the discussion. So to be fair to multiple intelligences, I felt it was important to give it a separate video. Although not the creator of multiple intelligences, Jerome Bruner is an important precursor to the idea of multiple intelligences. He is a very big deal in terms of educational research and created the idea of scaffolding, that we support learning with additional supports of some kind of scaffolds, and the notion of spiral curriculum, both concepts very well worth exploring, and looked at the idea of how learners learn. So one of his students, Howard Gardner, is considered a very big deal in education, and in 1983 wrote a book called Frames of Mind, where he suggested that there are more intelligences than the standard IQ model of intelligence. So I've given this diagram to indicate that IQ tests only measure a bit of the pie, bits of the pie. It measures the visual spatial elements. So with IQ tests, normally you get pictures and you rotate them in 3D or things like that. It tests your verbal and linguistic ability, and it tests your logical and mathematical ability. So that's what IQ tests focus on. It's probably worth mentioning a little bit about the history of IQ tests. IQ tests really, the ones we use now are based on work by a French scholar called Alfred Binet. He, with another researcher, Simon, created the Binet-Simon test. It wasn't devised, though, to test people's intelligence. It was devised to see how successful the schools were in Paris and in France in general at teaching things. So they gave the test to the kids to see, are the schools doing a good job? Stanford University took the Binet-Simon test and changed it around a little bit, but kept the heart of it and created the Stanford Binet test, which was the standard IQ test for a long time. So a questionnaire, an instrument that was created to measure the effectiveness of schools, ended up being an instrument for measuring the intelligence of people, which it really doesn't. IQ tests do not measure intelligence. They measure a person's ability to do IQ tests. That's about all they do. There's so many cultural, sociological, and other flaws with IQ tests that they're reasonably suspect. Anyway, my view on the world is that I believe people have the ability to grow and change. I don't like the idea of IQ tests because it sounds like once you get a number, you're fixed at that number, whereas there's absolutely no evidence to that and plenty of evidence to the contrary. In fact, people are capable of much growth and development if they think they are. If they think they can grow, they will grow. If they don't realize they can grow, then it's very difficult for them to overcome that. So there's a lot of research about growth mindsets. There's a lot of research about grit, as in Grit, how gritty you are, how persistent you are, what kind of gumption you are, how well you're able to hang in there. And that kind of put the lie to IQ tests a bit, because for example, your visual spatial ability is something you can learn to be better at. Your verbal linguistical ability is something you can learn to be better at. Your logical mathematical ability is something you can learn to be better at. Some people definitely start out better at these things, but these are very learnable skills. What Gardner suggests is these are only part of the pie, though, and he suggests perhaps 8 categories. Originally he had 6, then 7, then 8. And his 8 categories are, beside visual spatial, you have musical. Some people are very smart at musical things. They have a natural gift for it. Nonetheless, it's a learnable skill. Some people are innately connected to their body. They have great kinesthetic ability, so they're great dancers, great mimes, great performers in that way. Interpersonal. Some people are just good with people. They're people smart. They can read people. They can interact with people very well. Even though it's hard, that is a learnable skill. Verbal, linguistical, and logical, mathematical, we spoke about. Some people are very good with nature, very good with animals, very good with plants, have a green finger, all that sort of thing. Again, a very learnable skill. Intrapersonal. Some people are profoundly aware of themselves, aware of when they're stressed, aware of when they're happy, know how to change their mood and know how to deal with themselves, know how to take care of themselves. So Gardner's idea is that instead of thinking about the three old ideas, people have different kinds of intelligence. And certainly an aspect of this is quite popular, the notion of IQ being less important than EQ, emotional quotient instead of intelligence quotient. So a lot of people talk about EQ, and I think that's a combination of interpersonal and intrapersonal. Your interpersonal skills with others and your self abilities as well. So there's a lot of research around this. There isn't a lot of empirical research to indicate that exploring these or getting the students to develop these actually results in significantly improved performance from an educational point of view. But I don't take it like that. What I take it is as a lecturer, as a teacher, when I'm designing content, just to be aware that there are categories like this out there, and when I'm thinking of activities for the students to do, what's the harm in teaching around the cycle a bit, and not only getting the students to learn content off, but also to discuss it with others, to reflect themselves on the topic, to embody what they're seeing in a musical way, in a kinesthetic way, in a natural way. So to try out different things, essentially. So that's multiple intelligences. Thanks very much. We'll see you on the next episode.